Basically, once this coil and bolt is tight, all I have to do is reverse the process, put the air cleaner assembly back in, reattach the power steering sump, put the battery back in. But before that, I gotta lower the engine back in its mount area, line up the mounts with the hole, make sure my wiring harness for my coils, wiring harness for the coils is plugged back in, and there you go. That's it. So I didn't enjoy doing this, so I hope that you guys have a good idea on what a pain in the ass this is to do these coils and plugs on a double overhead cam Subaru Outback or Legacy with the flat 4. This one is a flat 4 turbocharged 2.5 liter turbo intercooled, and it's dual overhead cam, so the coils are right lined up with the frame. So in order to do these without risking stripping or cross threading or going into too much angle, you take the nut off the motor mount, lift the engine up with a jack, do your coils and plugs, then lower it back down to the mount, reverse your process, and you're done. So I'm hoping this helped you all out, and I struggled with it because this is the first newer Subaru I worked on. It was a pain in my ass, and I dislike engineers because they design monstrosities like this, and you know, I guess that's just how I am when I work on a piece of shit for the first time. Now I know how to do it. It's not as hard as it is the second time as it is the first time, but I hate it. I don't like working on pieces of shit where you don't have hand room unless you remove all these components just to get to tune-up items like spark plugs. Engineers, if you're listening, design tune-up items such as spark plugs, oil filters, air filters, fuel filters, things you do for a tune-up, easy stuff. Make it easily accessible. Making stuff a pain in the ass to access, there's no reason why spark plugs cannot be done by any competent person that can use tools and a feeler gauge. There's no reason. It's a tune-up. You know, there's no reason. But anyway, that's my take on it. Engineers need to be better at putting things in places where if you need to do a tune-up, all the tune-up areas need to be accessible and fairly easily accessible. There's no reason why you should go to a dealership for tune-up. You should only go there for major things like heads, engine overhauls, you know, major stuff. You know, that's the only reason you should go to a dealership or a shop. Because cars today, they have gotten to the point where they just purposely design things. Even simple tune-ups are so complicated now that every shop I know of is backed up for months because cars are overly complicated. So engineers, make tune-ups easily available so we can reduce the backlog at all the shops, because the shops, every shop in my area is backlogged for more than a month because all these little things are major evolutions. There is no reason. We need to be reasonable, and all tune-up items on a car must be easily accessible and be able to be done by a common person that has good with hand tools and a feeler gauge so they can check their gap and all that stuff. I mean, it's not rocket science. Tune-ups is basic maintenance. Almost anybody should be able to do it that's competent with tools and a feeler gauge. Anyway, that's my take on it, and let me know what y'all think in the comments. I'm not real happy with Subaru Legacies. I would personally never own a Subaru with double overhead cam because those are very inaccessible and too close to the frame. And you have to loosen the motor mounts and lift them up, lift the engine up about 2.5 inches just to get reasonable access to the coils and plugs. So engineers, if you're listening, design shit better, because I'm real tired of it, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that gets tired of working on these shit boxes. They're supposed to be good cars, but then when you start doing basic tune-ups, you find out what shit boxes they are, because everything is difficult to access. Now, I can understand major parts on an engine hard to access and you take it to the shop, that's fine. But simple tune-up items should all be accessible, reasonably accessible. This is not reasonable, having to lift your engine up, 2.5 inches. That's not reasonable. Anyway, you guys have a great day. Mad boosting.